I've been in dogs since 1991. We breed dogs that we want to train. I was out here in western Nebraska riding Harleys and training dogs. I don't sugarcoat anything, and if you don't like it, tough.
Hello and welcome to the Flatliner Kennels podcast with Chris Jobman. My name is Elliot and we are back recording today. We got a load of patrons in here watching the live stream and commenting. And as always, their questions go to the top first. If you want to join us at Patreon, it's patreon.com/Jobman. So come on over and join us over there. There's a chat feature there. You can sign up to come out and win a hunt with Chris and I out at his place next December. And you can go train at FLK with Chris too. So come and join us over there. How's it going, Chris?
Hey guys, how is everybody doing? Thanks for joining us. Especially thank you, Patreon members. You got to witness and listen to some of my ramblings before we got on the air here. It's a pretty bad deal, but I don't know what I'm doing with this new microphone. So I was hitting this microphone. See this little light bar right here, everybody? That's I was hitting it and it was never mind. You touches it, that's how you turn it on and off. And I was hitting
it out of anger. It wouldn't work, so he started beating on it and it turned on. And he was trying to make the case to his wife that his anger really is a good thing.
Correct. And never mind. Anyway, thanks for joining us, everybody. We got some stuff to talk about tonight. And Elliot, I would like to talk about. I know the Patreon questions go to the top. I get it, but there's a really good question on our podcast page that came in for an anonymous member, which he's not anonymous. He messaged me privately, and I actually want to put the question on the Facebook page. But it's talking about direct and indirect pressure, and we can get that later. But I do want to hit that before we forget about it. But
why don't we do this? Let's hit that one, and then we'll talk about the partners real quick, and then we'll go into the rest of the Q&A. How about that?
Yeah, let's do it. Well, let's do a little. Let everybody know what's going on at the kennel. We ran our first HRC hunt test. Tanner and I went to Salt Lake City last weekend. Yeah, had a real good test. Really good judges. Really good club out there. Anybody ever gets a chance to go to Mountain West HRC, they fantastic people. They work super hard. I got to run with one of my good friends, Eric Fryer, out there. Met a bunch of new people, old clients, old friends I haven't seen for a long time. I may start going west a little bit more than I used to go out there all the time. I may start heading out there a little bit more than I have in the past. But
how far is that for you?
It's 8.5 hours to Salt Lake. It ain't horrible, but I used to go all the way out to Idaho and northern Idaho and all that. And it's a long drive, but it's pretty cool. The people out there are really nice. The judging can be very difficult, but they're all good people. So we got that accomplished. Congratulations to Troy Severson on Thor's HR title. Tika owned by Josh Burke got her finish title. All the finished dogs got passes. Most of them got passes. I took my grand crew out there and I ran them separately. So I ran one crew on Saturday, one crew on Sunday. So I'm running 24 grand dogs and I can only run 12 dogs per event. So I split them up. And they all did really well. I found out what I need to work on for sure. That's kind of the reason why I went out there. But
do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, and this is no fault of mine or no fault of the dogs. I'm such a weird OCD guy that I feel that we're a little water weak right now. And that happens every time this year. I mean, it's April. We have water. The kennel's got water now where everything's fine. But this morning we woke up so when we go to work our water, it's either wind has been howling or it's been too cold. And then this morning, I had every bit intentions of doing water work today. I woke up, got up at 6:30, spitting snow.
Really?
It was spitting snow. 45 degrees today.
Wow.
I'm like, are you kidding me? So that didn't happen. So we're going to do some of it this week. But I feel like I'm a little bit water weak. And it's not, everybody says, everybody at the Grand thinks we're getting ready to go to the Grand, right? And a lot of times HRC tests, not all the time, but a lot of times you're a little closer to the water's edge. And the water test at a lot of the grand stuff is like a kind of a down and dirty. You need 4-wheel drive, to get there to it. You got all the debris and the trash in the water. It's a little bit different look than like an AKC test. Sometimes you stand away from the water. They do a lot of cutting corners and that sort of thing. HRC is a little bit different, and so I feel okay going into the grand on the water blinds. No problem. I don't worry about that at all right now. The down and dirty 4-wheel drives, through the muck, I'm fine with that. I got to go to a master test this weekend. So I'm leaving Friday with the Grand crew, and I'm heading east to the Grand. And I'm stopping in Missouri at Lyle's. I'm going to run a master test with like 20 of them. And that's where I'm a little concerned going into that test, because that's going to be more of cutting the corners away from the water, that sort of thing. You know what I mean? So I'm okay with it going to the Grand. The master test I'm a little concerned about, but we have plenty of them to run. It is what it is. And I would be silly not to run it, because I'm going right by it. Because I'm going to Eric's, I'm going to Habitat Flats Kennel, my buddy Eric Tizon's. And when I get there, we're going to pre-train together, and then we're going to move into Kentucky and pre-train with Chris and Red, our group. So I'm going right by Lyle's. I might as well stop there and run it. So that's
what is the date on that test?
It starts on Saturday. Yeah, it starts on Saturday. It's a Saturday, Sunday. It's 132 dog master. It's a Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, but there's 83 dogs in it. So I'm hoping we get done in a couple days.
This Saturday?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then,
man, I may come out there and just say hi to you. That's only 40 minutes from my house.
Yeah,
I may come out there and
there.
say hi and watch a little bit.
Are you going to come to Eric's when I get there for the following weekend?
I hope so. I haven't texted him yet. I was going to text him tomorrow.
Who, Eric?
Yeah.
You're fine. Come on out. I already talked to him about it.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not my kennel, but I already talked to him about it. So
I'll pop out that Saturday the 9th.
Yeah. So like I said, I was really happy with our HRC crew this last weekend. For the most part, they heeled to the bucket really well. I mean, pretty good. Their line manners are pretty good. I need to do a better job in training on heeling away from the line. And because at the Grand and stuff, you can get in trouble for heeling away from the line. They can't be crazy. And once I'm done running, I kind of let them just loosen up and we leave the line. So I got to work on that a little bit. Overall, it was pretty good. And like I said, we went out to Salt Lake, and those grounds are on Lee K public area. And if anybody's ever been out west, the sagebrush out there is massive. Like, you can park a truck behind them. And if you've never ran in sagebrush, if your dog is supposed to zig and it zags, they never find the bird. It's a very difficult place to run. A lot of those birds you can't go straight to. The blinds you can't go straight to. The marks you can't go straight to. So you got to have a dog that can handle, that can mark. So it was a good test, good grounds, and we'll see what happens from there.
Yeah, cool. So the Grand, what is the exact date of the Grand?
It starts May 16th.
Okay.
May 16th. Yeah.
And then you'll come right home after that, or are you hitting somewhere else?
No, I'm leaving here on Friday. Eileen's going to stay home. We are one of our best females I've ever touched. Rainey is in heat, and we're going to breed her to Blitz. So we're going to have. So we bred last podcast. We talked about we bred Flash to Faith. That's that's as close as Isla we can get. So if that Flash to Faith, if that takes, she'll be pregnant. Then we're going to breed Rainey to Blitz. That's going to be a phenomenal litter if that takes. So she's going to handle that breeding, and we have to do surgical for that. And when that's all done, because she can't be gone for 3 weeks, it's just too much stuff here. So when that's all done and we get everything settled here, she's going to drive out and join me for the Grand. So that'll be nice.
Nice.
It's so hard for her to leave. We got payroll and dogs here, and it's just too much, to leave for 3 weeks. But
so do you enjoy this time of year with all that travel? And do you enjoy that, or is it just another day at the office? Or
the travel?
Yeah, just like this whole run where you're going to be at Lyle's and Eric's and the Grand. Do you look forward to that, or is it just like I don't know?
No, I'll be honest with you. I don't. I look forward to seeing my friends. I really enjoy like training with Eric. I mean, just when me and Eric are training together, because that's like old times, right? It's just him and I, and we're just battling. We're just having a great time training. I love that. I mean, that is we get flip each other crap all day long. It's fun. But then when we get to the Grand, I love training with him and Rhett and Aiken and all them guys. I really enjoy that. That's my favorite part. Once the Grand is going, it's so stressful. And then once it's over, you're like, oh, it's finally over. But well, it's not, because now we got master tests. We got qualified dogs, so it just ramps up. I don't mind, and I'm fine by myself. I don't mind driving, because when I drive, I just in my thought, you know what I mean? I just drive and listen to podcasts and just think. But when you get there, I'm going to be by myself for a week or two, right? And I'm going to have 24 dogs by myself on the road. That's a lot.
Right.
That's a lot. But it is what it is. We're going to divide and conquer. That's what we have to do. So we're a team. That's what we do. But I enjoy the people. I enjoy seeing, I enjoy seeing the Grand Committee, the workers. We're friends with all them guys, like the site coordinators. I mean, we've known them for 20 some years. So it's nice to see all them. But
yeah.
All
right, well, let's hit the partners real quick, then we'll get into the question that you wanted to hit first, and then we'll just run down the list. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
So, Mammoth Guardian dog crates, I got my new one in. Just put it together yesterday. Sounds like you had yours up and running before I did. You seem to really, really like them and how you use them on your kennel. Tell us exactly how are you using those mammoths in the kennel?
So the more I use these mammoth kennels, I love them. Now, I don't put them in my trucks. I don't put them in anything like that, because we have dog boxes and trailers, like but we have dogs in our kennel that if you leave them in the kennel in their runs for an extended period of time, they hurt their feet. They pace a lot. They move a lot. They're very, very busy. They don't gain weight. Their feet start hurting them. So what we do with those dogs is sometimes at night or during the day, we'll put them in those mammoth dog kennels, and I have them all on rollers. And we can just roll them around the kennel, move them around. I love the versatility of, you can roll them around, or you could take them off, the rollers off, and put them in your truck. I love the different versatility of them. And they don't weigh 75 pounds like some of the other kennels out there. I like the versatility. We use them every single. I have 4 of them now, and I have them all lined up, all side by side, and I love them. I actually really, really like them.
So you probably don't have the roll cage on them then.
Oh no, I do.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to experience the entire thing. Like I wanted to. Yeah. I really like them. Now, we don't have to have the roll cages on them, because we roll them. We don't have to, but I have them on there just in case we have to put them in the back of a pickup or something. We've got them.
And it does look way cooler. It looks cool.
It looks like Mad Max, Beyond Thunderdome kennel. You know what I mean? With the metal and everything.
Yeah,
I like them.
It's a cool look. The weight is a huge difference to me, because when I've got 2, one doesn't have a roll cage and one does. So I just slip it in the back of my truck if it's in the back of my truck. And then if I want to travel, then the roll cage goes on and it goes in the back. Yeah. So either way, it's just like I said, it's very versatile. You can just pick them up and slide them in. It's wonderful. So you go to mammothpet.com, or on Amazon, just search Mammoth Guardian Dog Crate, and you can get them over there.
They're a really good product. The more I use them, the more I like them.
Yeah, me too. I also want to tell you guys about Marino Decoys, hand-carved decoys, wonderful human being. I love it when we partner with people that we know and trust and like as the people that they are. And if you're looking for those hand-carved decoys, or the urn, which I've got actually right here. This is not Mammoth, but this is the last. I have a friend who's a decoy carver, and my last dog is in here. Luckily, I just knew a guy that did it for me, or I never would have had this done. Yeah. But Mike, he's got that whole process of putting your dog in an urn down to a science. It's just a wonderful, wonderful product. MarinoDecoys.com.
Yeah. Well, and to go back to our partners, and I think we have more partners coming, hopefully. If anybody wants to be a partner, let us know. But here's the thing about being a partner with us, and I know Elliot feels how I do. If we don't like the product, we're not going to endorse a product.
Right.
That I'm not putting my reputation. I know you're not putting your reputation. So if we talk about a product and we're using that product, we liked it. That we're not just saying it to say it. We like that product.
Yeah, 100%. That's the process, is that we get them in our hands.
Yep.
We talk about it together and we go over it. And if it's not something that we can put a stamp on, then we're not going to mess with it.
100%.
So. Right. All right, man. Well, let's go ahead and jump in. Do you have that? I do have that. I don't know exactly which question you're talking about. I've got all the questions here.
All right. So it just came on our Facebook page today, and I'll read it. I won't say his name because it's an anonymous. And if anybody puts you don't have to put your name on your questions on the post. But I'll be honest with you, I prefer it. I prefer to know who I'm talking to. You know what I mean? So I would prefer to have somebody's name, but if not, no big deal. So let's just get into it.
Is this a question about the casting?
Yes. I'm gonna let you read
I've got
this.
It here.
I'm gonna let you read this, and then
Okay.
I'm gonna talk about what the difference between indirect and direct pressure is. But I know his problem that he has here. I've dealt with this problem before, and I'm gonna let you read this question, and then I'm gonna answer it.
Okay. When might you use more direct pressure during casting? For example, I have a dog that is stubborn to take an overcast at times. I was able to determine that it is a discipline issue rather than a lack of understanding. I tried using indirect pressure, whistle, sit, and nick, but would get the same response on the next cast, attempting to go back instead of over. I started using low-level continuous collar pressure right before giving the overcast and releasing the pressure when the dog committed to the cast. I used this on T patterns and again for swim by. I fixed the issue I was having. I hear so much discussion about indirect pressure, but I'm curious about what happens when indirect pressure isn't getting the point across. And Chris, also, I think you should do a real quick just summary of what indirect pressure is for people that are
I'm gonna talk about direct and indirect pressure before I answer that question. So his deal wasn't really a question; it was more of what helped his dog. So what indirect pressure would be you're enforcing a command, an already known command, to get a result for a different command. And what I mean, that sounds very confusing. And Rex Carr invented this, the godfather of the modern retriever training methods, Rex Carr. And what this is like, say you're on a blind retrieve and your dog gives you a cast refusal. So you sit the dog down again with the whistle, you tweet with the whistle, you give collar pressure, you give him a correction, then you repeat the cast. So what you did was you gave direct pressure, you gave pressure on a sit to indirectly fix your cast refusal, if that makes sense. Or if a dog is sticking on a bird and you say sit with a correction on the collar, and then you get the bird out of his mouth. You gave a command on already a different command to get. It almost takes their mind off of what they're doing. Like it almost resets their brain, if that makes sense. So you blow a whistle, give you cast refusal. Blow the whistle again, sit, correction, cast, and then that's when they give you the right cast. You almost reset their brain. And I use it all the time. Direct pressure is like force fetch, like fetch, nick, fetch, burn. I hate saying burn, but that's when I say burn, that's just continuous pressure. Fetch, continuous pressure, fetch. That is direct pressure. Sit, pressure, sit. Anything like that directly that you are giving pressure on that command specifically. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So what he was having troubles with was his dog wouldn't go over on the over piles and tee, I think you said, and swim by and those sort of things. So what he did was he used direct pressure. Now I have done this before in the past. And sometimes the dogs you got to really read your dog. If your dog is confused, don't start using direct pressure because that's just going to make him more confused. You need to teach more. But in his statement, he said that he figured out his dog was just being basically disobedient. So let's just say you do a three-handed cast. You got a back pile, your side piles, right? So you give them a right back, they turn to the right. You give them a left over, and they just look over and they don't want to go. They don't want to go over there, but they know they know what you want. They just look over there. So what I do is I don't use the command over for that, if they're doing that at a young age, I really try not to give. So let me back. I really try not to give pressure on over anything over. And I really try anything like that, because you got to understand something. In my program, we go obedience, collar conditioning, force fetch, right? Then we do three-handed casting. Now let's say we're doing force to pile. That's driving back. We do force on back. So you give a right back, they turn, correction, nick, back again. So all the pressure that the dogs have gotten up until this point are driving away from you. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Fetch, they're going away from you to get the bumper. Force on back, they're going away from you. Force to pile, they're going away from you. Usually force is something we want to do to drive the dog away from you. You're forcing them away from you. In an over situation, that is a completely different change of direction. Some of these dogs, so he was in the T, he was having problems in the T. Well, the dog has been forced to pile. It's been through all those things. It's been all through that. So some of these dogs, when you give the pressure to give an over, some of these guys want to go straight back, because that's what they know. That's what they learn. Pressure drives. So you got to really make sure that the dogs know what you want from them. And what I usually do is I toss a bumper to the side, and I don't say over. I either say their name, and if they won't go and get it, they're just being stubborn. They're just sitting there looking at you, and you've tried everything in your power to not use pressure. You've done everything you could think of. What I don't do is say over with a nick. What I say is fetch, because that's a force. You need go where I tell you to go. So if there's a bumper over there and the dog can see the bumper, it's not confused. Fetch, correction, fetch. It's like an extended walking fetch, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I have done that before. Usually I try everything in my power not to do that, but I have done it. And once those dogs realize, hey, I got to go to work. I don't feel like doing it, but I got to do it. And you force them on your overs a little bit. Usually it comes right out of it. It's fine. It goes away. And that's what happened to him too. It fixed his problem. And the reason why indirect pressure wasn't working for him is because at that stage in these dogs' building career, they probably don't understand what indirect pressure is, because everything's been direct pressure. Sit pressure, here pressure, heel pressure, fetch pressure, back pressure. That's all direct pressure. And that dog has yet to understand what indirect pressure actually is. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So the first time he used indirect pressure, the dog's like, I don't know what you mean. I was already sitting. What do you want me to do? I'm sitting, right? So I'm just sitting. Well, you try to use indirect pressure. The dog didn't understand it because you did a sit pressure cast. The dog is already sitting. So the dog didn't understand what you wanted. We start our indirect pressure a little bit later in the game. And a lot of times we start our indirect pressure in like pattern blind lying and casting. Sit, nick, cast. And we introduce indirect pressure real slow, because until they figure out what it means, it can be really, really confusing for the dog, especially a young one. Because like you said sit, you had pressure, and then you try to cast, and the dog's like, what do you mean? I'm sitting. You told me to sit. I'm not moving. I'm not going to move. You told me to sit. They don't understand what indirect pressure is. So that's why direct pressure worked really good for him at that stage. And I bet you in my 26 years of doing this as a professional, I'll bet you I've only had to use direct pressure on overs less than 10 dogs in my entire life. But we do it because we do such a good job of like walking fetch and forced pile and all those sort of things. They understand it. And most of the time when we start like our overs and stuff, most of the time, a lot of times these dogs want to spin and go back, because that's what we always teach: go back first, because the overs are going to go away in their life. That's just going to go away. That's just for drill for them. That's all going to go away. We all go to angles and backs. So that's why that's why his indirect pressure didn't work for him. If that makes sense. I was just kind of rambling there.
So on the Patreon chat, Jared is asking, how do you transition to an indirect pressure routine if all you've ever done is direct?
So that's what I was just getting at, Jared. Thanks for asking. So now that's where you do it. I do it in pattern binding, line, and casting. That's kind of we introduce it sometimes in the T. Very, very seldom is it in the T. Usually the T, as long as they're leaving and stopping, we have them on a long lead, a really long lead. So if they turn the wrong way, we stop them. The T for us and all that stuff is a teaching phase. And we try not to use indirect pressure in those ranks because that's going to really confuse the dog. We introduce indirect pressure kind of in our pattern binding, lining, and casting. At once the dog knows where all three piles are at, right? Or all three piles are at, and they're just being disobedient, and they know where they're supposed to go. They know that their angles, they know everything, and you send them on, the middle pile, and you give them a stop them. You stop them, you give them a right angle, and they just dig straight back. And they know where they're supposed to go because they can see the bumpers. That's when we start using indirect pressure. That's when we'll stop them. We'll recall them a little bit, which is attrition, right? We're in attrition. Sit them down, close the distance, walk up to them, close the distance a little ways, sit them down, pressure, cast. And then eventually they start realizing what you want. And that is in my opinion, that's the fairest way to introduce indirect pressure because they know where the piles are at. They know where they're supposed to go. And when we introduce it, it's real light pressure, 1s and 2s, not much at all. And just, you got to teach them, you have to teach them how to handle indirect pressure correctly. And once you get it, once they teach it, you're good to go. You're good to go.
With Georgie, when you taught me about indirect pressure when I was out there, I just started using it and she just seemed to understand.
Yeah.
Is that some dogs just know? Because I used it when she knew she was being a little bitch.
Yeah. Well, so she was farther along too. Right. She wasn't in this basic transition stage. No, she was a finished dog.
Right.
So she mentally, it didn't take her long to understand that because she was already through her quote unquote direct pressure stage.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So her head was a little bit more clear when it came to teaching that, and she accepted it really well. If you'd have tried that when she was going through the T and all that stuff, she'd have been a little confused for a while.
Right.
Yeah.
So it should have been introduced to her much earlier.
You could have, you could have, but it worked out great because it all worked out great. The rest is history, but it could have been for sure.
Most of the time that she gets a correction is indirect. It's mostly on blinds where she won't go into the wind
Yeah. And we use that a lot for indirect pressure.
All right. We ready to move on to the next question?
Yeah.
All right. This is, I don't know what the name is. This comes from Patreon, but I don't know if I didn't write down the name or anyway. Hi, Chris. I've heard you mention on past episodes that before an International Grand Upland Series, you'll often do a tune-up training session the day before the event. I'd love to hear you expand on what exactly that looks like.
Of an upland before the Grand?
Yeah, about how... I think you even said that you ran over one time and was able to get in a quick session right before the Grand, or that you did an upland tune-up.
Well, I'll be honest with you. A lot of times before we get to the 5th series of the Grand, all of our really newbie dogs, I say this every year that I'm going to do the upland before we go to the Grand. I'm going to practice on it. I'm going to do that. And I a lot of times I don't because it scares me. And I don't know if I probably should do it, but I don't. And here's why it scares me. It's because we're trying so hard to teach these dogs to run straight. We're trying so hard to teach these dogs not to fall into the drag back trap. We're trying to teach these dogs to go where their eyes tell them to go and not where their nose. And at the Grand, there is so much drag back involved. I mean, it's massive drag back. What I don't want to have happening before coming into the Grand is them to trust their nose before their eyes. Then we're in deep trouble. The last Grand that we ran, Chris Aiken and I, in our flight, we were the last ones to run our flight. We ran our 4th series the day of the 5th series of the Grand. And Tracy Stubbs and his crew did everything in their power to give us time to work on the upland. It just wasn't enough time. We just didn't have enough time. And so all we did was do sit to pile stuff, like sit to pile. We get them to quarter a little bit. And some of those dogs, that's the first time they've seen an upland. And I'll be quite honest with you, all I want my dog to do on the upland is leave my side, hunt the area, hunt the cover, flush the bird, and sit down. I honestly don't want a true upland champion because most upland dogs they break. They broke a lot. And those dogs are really hard to fix. So at the Grand is a lot different than a weekend upland test. Weekend upland test, you're running a brace, 2 dogs running. It's chaotic. At the Grand, I want them to almost be not startled, but I almost want them to be surprised when they flush the bird. But what I want them to hear first and foremost in the back of their brain is my whistle. And that's all I want them to care about is my whistle, sit down, don't move. The dogs that upland hunt a lot, we have troubles with those dogs in the upland because you can't control them. They're maniacs. So, but how it works when we pre-train for it, we do our walk-ups. We do a walk-up just like they normally do in the upland, and we start out with dead chuckers. So we have ribbons throughout the field. We put dead chuckers on the ground, and we get them to just move and quarter, get away from our side, get out there, hunt the cover, find the birds. Then we come back. Everybody puts their dogs away. Then we start doing, and if anybody needs to work on any more walk-ups, we can do that. But then what we start doing is we start planting live birds in the field. And then when we have, the guy running the dog, we have 2 gunners on the sides. And they flush the bird, blow the sit whistle, all that sort of thing, blah, 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 and get them to sit. Now, with that being said, here's what happens. Here's the people that make a lot of mistakes. So my buddy Chris Aiken and I, we have 2 very, very differing thoughts on this. So he's right, and so am I. We just do it differently. What he doesn't like, if that dog breaks, if that chucker flies away, that dog, so the gunner, and I've watched Chris lose his mind in training for this. I'm talking explosion. But if that dog breaks and that gunner shoots the bird and that dog gets the bird, that's bad. And Chris hates that. Obviously, we all hate that. What I do is I tell my guys when we're doing it, I can control my dog. I got it. I want you to, if that dog flushes the bird and that bird flies away, and let it get out there a little ways. Don't kill it right in front of their face so they can grab it. Don't just let that bird sail a little bit, and I want you to shoot it. And if that dog breaks, I'm going to let that dog break a little bit. I'm going to let that dog get out of the area where he flushed that bird. I'm going to let that dog, if it's 10, 15, 20 yards, and then I'm going to correct the dog and stop it before it gets to the bird. What you don't want to do, and I've seen this happen 1,000 times at the Grand, what you don't want to do is when that bird flushes, I always watch people do it. When that bird flushes, they get onto him with the collar and make him sit, tweet, bang, with a collar. Instantly, that dog flushes. So now what ends up happening is that dog is associating pressure with that bird. What ends up happening is when that dog goes in to flush the bird at the Grand, the second it smells that bird, it turns away from the bird. Because now it's worried about getting in trouble for flushing a bird, right? You follow me?
Yeah.
That's why I let my dogs flush the bird. And if they're going to break, go ahead. I blow the whistle. If they're going to break, go ahead. But I'm going to let them get out. That's why I want my gunners to shoot the bird as far away as possible. That's why I let that dog get out of the area where they flush that bird. Get out of that area. Now the dog is running. The dog is breaking. And then when I correct that dog, I'm correcting it for breaking, and there's no question in that dog's mind why it's getting in trouble. That makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's rephrase that. If that dog goes in and flushes the bird, and you instantly get him on him with a collar to make him sit because you're so worried about that, what you're going to end up having is that dog is going to associate pressure with the bird. It's not going to flush the bird.
Mm-hmm.
Are you following me?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I learned that I ran Springer Spaniels in field trials and hunt tests in all the 90s, and they're a flushing dog. So I learned all that flushing stuff from Springer Spaniel people, which are the finest upland dog in the history of the world, pheasant dogs. So I learned that technique from them guys, and that's how I do it. Now, does it always work? No. There's some dogs that are just that's how it happens, but that's how we do it. That's how we do it. It's a very controlled situation.
Oh, great. And that question came from Jared as well, Jared Hoffman. All right, moving on to the next one. This one comes off of the Patreon chat line. It's from Hunter. And Hunter says, I'm new to all of this with training my first pup, which is 4 months old. I call his name to go get the bumper whenever it's tossed. What is the purpose of using the word back and the word fetch to also go and get a bumper or a duck?
Okay. Well, Hunter, he's only 4 months old. So I hope you listen to all of our podcasts, starting with episode 1. But we use their names for a marked retrieve that they can see. We use the command back for a blind retrieve and or forcing to a pile, which is the beginning of blind retrieve. Fetch is a word that we use during force fetch, which is a conditioned retrieve, and you need to really pay attention to that and fix that. So fetch is during force fetch to get them to pick up a bird. His name is for a marked retrieve. Back is for a blind retrieve. That way that dog, once it gets older, when you say dead bird and then it's mine, it goes, oh, okay, dead bird. That means I'm running a blind retrieve. I'm part of a team now. Then you say back, that means you're running a blind retrieve. They're not running a mark. So it signifies two different things that they need to do.
Right. And Hunter, if you have not, I don't know whether you have got the playlist, but we've got the playlist of the job and flow chart that goes all the way through it. And if you don't have access to that, let me know, and I will message you with the playlist, with the audio version playlist.
I promise you, Hunter, if you follow the flow chart, and you're going to build a great dog if you just follow that flow chart. And this may be your first dog. It sounds like it may be your first dog. Here's what not to do. You need to find programs that fit your style and fit your dog. Some programs don't fit with each other. So find a program and stick with it. My flow chart's great. Freddie's is great. Those sort of things. You can't pick a program and stay with it. Don't jump from program to person. Listen to this person, try this, try that. You stick with a really good program and just follow it. Don't jump around and you're going to find out everybody on the internet's an expert and nobody knows shit, to be quite honest with you. So you need to really stick with a good program and stay with it. Like I said, mine, Chris Aiken's Duck Dog Basics, Duck series, Freddie's stuff is all really good. And don't jump around on that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, next question. This is actually a friend of mine, the owner of Flight Day Ammo, Ben Myers. He has a pup of red, and I don't know what the female is on it. And that dog, I think, is 5 or 6 months old. Issue he's having is all of a sudden the dog has become extremely defiant with recall. This is right before e-collar. He has not done e-collar training yet.
Okay.
And so he's just looking like, what tips do you have it's basically a teenage kind of dog that's becoming defiant on recall?
How old?
Like 5, 6 months.
Collar condition it.
Just
be done with it.
Do it right now.
Do it now. Get really good obedience on it. Collar condition it right now. Years ago, this is going to be hilarious. Years ago, we had a dog named Black Cash, and we got him at like 4 months old from his owner that couldn't catch him. So in that breeding of Black Cash, Chris Aiken and we had 5 of those puppies in that litter. I think there's only 6 total, and all of them got Grand Hunter Retriever champions, like together. And we have a picture of it. It's great. But when I first got him, we would let him out in the front yard because all the puppies that we get in training with us right now are live in our house. And he would be in my front yard, and I couldn't catch him. Elliot, when I say I couldn't catch him, I could not catch him.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? Screw it. We started collar conditioning him at like 4.5 months old, just for this problem that your buddy's got to catch him.
Yeah.
And he ended up being a Grand Herd Retriever champion, master hunter. But we had to do that because I could not catch him. He was just running everywhere. Yeah. So that I just said, screw it. We did obedience and collar conditioning instantly. And every time I let him out, I had a collar on him and he came back.
Yeah, I made this huge mistake with Georgie. Her recall was great, hadn't e-collar conditioner yet, and I would come back from a hunt and I was cleaning ducks, and she's sitting there, and for some stupid reason, I thought, oh, let's see what she does with the duck. She grabs that thing, takes off running, and now I'm thinking, I don't want her to go over and eat this duck.
Yeah.
So I start chasing. Mistake number 2, I start chasing. Oh, man, she thought it was the funnest thing in the world. After a while, it was a couple of my kids, my dad, and I all chased her across the yard. And from that point on, she's like, that was the most fun I've ever had. From that point on, I could not take her off a leash outside of the house ever until I e-collared. Her. I mean, she was a monster.
Her brother, Red, who is fantastic, as everybody knows, as you know, everybody. He is terrible. He's still bad about that. He runs around like a maniac. He jumps in every ranger that we have looking for birds. He jumps on every four-wheeler we're having. I mean, once he's checked everything, he comes back. He's a maniac. He is a maniac. But he's the sweetest dog, but he's a maniac. But I would just collar condition him and be done with it.
All right, let's do one more. And Patreon people, we're going to record back-to-back episodes here. So if you guys want to hang around, don't leave. But we've got another question off the Patreon line. My friend Walter, he's asking, on multiple marks, i.e. a triple, if the dog comes in, wheels around to heel, and looks out like he has a good idea of where the mark is, do you adjust them at all, push or pull to line them a few degrees either way to make their line even better? Like, for example, to move them a few degrees upwind of the bird, or do you just send them? If
you watch me run a hunt test, I'm pretty deliberate in my movements, and I put them dogs where I want them dogs to go. Because here's the thing, they may think they know where it's at, and they may, let's just say there's a right to left wind, and they are looking a little bit more right than they need to be, and you kick them off. If they miss that bird upwind, they may be gone. So I make dang sure that I put them in a spot to succeed. And if, as a smart handler, you are going to put those dogs downwind just a little bit if you can. Now, there are some dogs that I train that it is so hard to change their mind on any of that because they're so good. They're so smart. They're so talented. Like the two that I can think of that pops in my head right now are Indian Vader. They're brother and sister out of Jet, and they are unbelievable animals. But once they have something in their head that they think they know where they're going, it's so hard to change their mind. And here's the thing too, Walter, you need to be really, 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 really careful of. When you have a young dog like that, maybe it's a young dog, I don't know, but just say it's a young dog. And you let that dog go, and you don't teach that dog, you let that dog go wherever it wants to go because it thinks it knows better than you. All you're doing is teaching that dog to be extremely independent and not be a team player at all. And I'm going to tell you, there is going to be a time in that dog's life, lots of them, where that dog is going to need your help. And if you don't teach that dog how to become a team player young, now I'm not saying overly control them. I'm not saying really make them robotic. I'm saying you need to make that dog be a team player more and more and more, because if they spin around like that and they think they know where they're going, usually that dog is extremely talented but really independent marking dog. If you let that dog do whatever it wants to do, you are never going to be able to fine line that dog to anything you want. And I'll bet you $100 that dog struggles at running blind retrieves because he thinks it knows more than you do. And you're not, and it's not part of a team. Because here's the problem that I see coming out of a lot of Derby dogs. Let's talk that real quick. So Derbies are great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a Derby guy, but I appreciate the work that they do. I've seen a pile of Derby dogs come to us that want nothing to do with a blind retrieve. All they've done is marks, and they're so independent. To teach them to handle is extremely difficult. It's the same way with like an upland dog, a pure upland dog that's hunted pheasants for a year, 2 years, and then the guy goes, "Oh, I want to run blind retrieves now." That you've just taught that dog to be super, super independent, and it's really hard to teach them to run blind retrieves, like cast of the wind, that sort of thing. So be careful, Walter, on this. Teach your dog where you want it to go, because in the long run, it's going to help you develop a team player. Because it's our job. It's our job to help the dog. Our job is to help the dog. So,
all right. Well, good stuff. Good stuff. Let's go ahead and end this one here. I think that was really, really informative.
Good
information. I thought that was good stuff. So we're going to be right back with another episode in 2 weeks from now. It'll be more Q&A questions. Let's go ahead and close this one down. Okay. Patreon people, stick around with this one.
We've got to congratulate Mr. Marsteller, our mascot behind us. He went to an HRC test this weekend, did a really, really good job, had a pile of ribbons on his young dogs. Congratulations, Dave Marsteller. Proud of you. I know you're going to love that. You're going to love that. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thank you, Elliot. Everybody at the line. Take dead aim.